Welcome to the Money Insights Podcast, where high-income earners come to learn wealth-building strategies that will take them from high income to high net worth. With your hosts, financial and wealth-building experts, Christian Allen and Rod Zabriskie.
Welcome into today's episode of the Money Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Allen. With me, as always, Rod the Pod Zabriskie. Rod, what's up, my friend?
Hey, I am doing great. It's hard to believe Halloween passed.
Halloween did pass. Not at my house, Rod. Not at my house.
That's what I was thinking.
It's still going strong.
We were on a Zoom meeting yesterday, and you were on your front porch, and I could clearly see.
You could still see the stuff.
The stuff was
Headless
up,
Horseman. Oh, man, we probably couldn't see that, but you could see a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we'll probably we'll clean up here in the next couple days. I think Heather started to clean up the inside stuff already. We just haven't gotten to the outside stuff, but mostly because my kids really like Halloween, and they're like, we don't want to move to Christmas already. Christmas stuff is up forever. Halloween only gets a small time. So anyway, they're not happy about that. So anyway, we're giving them a little extra time to enjoy the Halloween spirit.
That's funny. Around here, a lot of our decoration is fall themed, and so it's not weird to still have pumpkins out or fall leaves.
Keep that stuff. Yeah, we'll keep all the pumpkins, and we don't like carved pumpkins because it's just messy and a big old pain. And I hate carving pumpkins. Anyway, not the band. Oh wait, that's not carving pumpkins. That's Smashing Pumpkins. I love Smashing Pumpkins. No, I'm just kidding. So we don't carve pumpkins though. We're like, just don't mess with it. And of course, the nice thing is they last much longer. So we probably have like 30 pumpkins or so out there, and I'm sure we'll keep those as long as they're still healthy and looking decent. So, Rod, before we get into our episode, I've got to do something I rarely do, both.
Okay.
And I never like doing it. So, but I'm going to do it anyway. So here's the deal. Just recently, the podcast, this very podcast that we're speaking on, went from 5 stars to 4.9 stars. Yes, devastating. Absolutely devastating. It's not that we had never had any negative review, right? Like when we talk about Dave Ramsey, and oftentimes the Dave Ramsey is like, we don't like you. We'll go like, so it's not that we never, but apparently we have one too many. So here's what we need. We need anyone who regularly listens that loves us to go give us a 5-star review with the hopes that we can bump back up to 5 stars. That would be amazing. So before we get into our episode, Rod, that's my big ask, and a preemptive thanks everybody. Even if you don't do it, we still love you and appreciate you. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about the wealth multiplier you can't buy back, Rod. Okay. So here's the thing. You can buy almost anything with money, right? That's part of why we like building wealth, right? Because we can do just about anything. There's one thing, there might be more than one thing, but at least one thing we're going to talk about today that I can't buy back with money. What is it, Rod?
Time.
Yep. It's time. Okay, so I know we're going to talk about time, doesn't it? Yep. And how does time connect with wealth building? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So one of the things that I've noticed, and I feel like I live this to some extent, but wealthy people don't just grow their money. They also try to create more time for the things that they love, they want to do. It's more about control, which is really funny. Like we talk about control and investing. The same things apply inside of our life, right? We want to be able to be intentional, have control over our time, when we work and why, with who, all of those different things.
Yeah.
And that's just something. And so like in my own life, I've noticed as I've gotten older, time just gets more and more and more valuable. And so like in some ways, money actually can buy time, because sometimes I can, create the opportunity to do things by paying other people to do it. And then I'm like, literally, I'm, instead of trading my time for money, I'm having someone else do something that I would rather not. And therefore now I have more time to travel, be with my family, do a hobby, exercise, right? I got an email the other day from a doctor. When I say an email, it was a LinkedIn email. LinkedIn mail. What do you call a LinkedIn email? Just
InMail,
a
I think they call it.
InMail. Thank you. I got an InMail message, and it was a doctor, and he was like, Christian, I really need you to think about this. You've got to be different than all other financial advisors who never talk about health. You need to be talking about health. And I was like, I mean, like, I don't know that if I got out there and I was like, okay, let's like really bust out a dieting plan, if people would be like, well, why would I listen to Christian for that? But in conjunction with this concept, Rod, money doesn't buy back health either, right?
Nope.
Anyway, I'm just going off on tangents, but those are the things that come to my mind. And like, those are the things that become more important to us as we get to this kind of different stage in our life, right? So when I say that time is the ultimate multiplier of wealth, what does that mean to you, Rod? What comes to your mind?
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what you said in terms of intentionality, control, living life on your own terms. If we're always in the situation where we just have to be trading our time for money, be working, be on that side of it, then you don't get that same intentionality, right? You don't get the time with your family or whatever. Like you said, all the different things that you might prefer to spend your time if you weren't working, right? And I think what often happens is the very people who set out with a dream of having that free time, that the ability to kind of live life on their own terms, and therefore become a business owner or a highly paid professional, actually put themselves in a harder place if everything relies on them, if they have to show up every day to make that happen. And I'm obviously focusing specifically on the work situation, but similar principles apply when it comes to how I go out and invest my money.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Rod. So let's talk about time arbitrage, because yes, we're coining that phrase. Maybe it's already coined, I don't know, but we're going to coin it, Rod. Time arbitrage, which basically means that we're going to buy back our time with our money. Okay, yeah, but before we get to that, before we talk about ways to do it, did I cut you off? Is there anything else you wanted to add to that was thought? Okay.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
Good.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about how the wealthy buy back their time. And what's interesting is you made and here's the thing. Part of the reason that this topic resonated with me when I was doing my brainstorms was that it intersects so much with money and wealth and the principles. So like not just the concepts, but the actual principles. So what do we talk about? Leverage, velocity, right? So leverage is the most logical, obvious thing. When I think about leveraging in money, it's, I'm leveraging to be able to grow my money more exponentially, or lose my money more exponentially, right? Whatever I'm doing, but leverage creates a bigger opportunity, right? Well, we can do the exact same thing in the world of time. I can leverage other people or tools or whatever to create more time for the things that I absolutely want. And my experience is that the people who are wealthy, not just like wealthy with money, but like wealthy and happy, like those types of people tend to be the type of people who learn how to kind of live life on their terms. And in essence, what they're doing is they're buying back their time, right? Their time freedom, which is a really difficult thing to do. But once you can do it, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to and they ask, well, what do you do? And it's not an easy thing to explain in just a quick minute. but often what I end up talking about is I work with real estate investors, and again, without getting into a lot of detail, but it almost often the response that I get back is, "Oh yeah, I would love to invest in real estate if only I had the time." Right?
Yeah.
If I don't, but I can't be the landlord. I can't go out and buy the whatever. And what they don't realize, and what a lot of our clients know, is that you don't have to be the landlord in order to get a paycheck, get cash flow out of investing in real estate. And what are you doing? You're leveraging other people's time, expertise, and just labor, right? Work
Mm-hmm.
to provide that for you. What do they have? They have the know-how and the expertise and the time to put into that. And what do you
Yep.
have? You have the capital. What are they looking for?
Right.
They're looking for the capital. So you bring those together, and with syndications and funds and all kinds of this kind of peer funding type of world, well, that then changes completely people's attitude towards investing in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think leverage is like the clearest cut way that we think about like from a principle standpoint when we're thinking about buying back our time.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait though, Rod. There's more.
Oh boy.
What if I told you liquidity was a principle used by the wealthy to buy back their time? Does that even make sense? How would it work?
Initially, no,
Okay.
but I'm intrigued.
You're tracking with me? Okay. Well, let me just tell you. The idea here is that the wealthy keep access to capital available so that they can move at a moment's notice, which, ultimately then creates more of what they want, money, which then creates the ability to create more time, freedom. And so obviously no one can buy literal time, but we can buy time freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always believed like liquidity is one of those things I harp on all the time, just because, again, I'll say it like I always do. Like if you're liquid, like there's not any financial situation that can come up that if you have enough liquidity, there's really nothing that's going to come up that's going to totally derail you. Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying keep every dollar liquid, right? I'm not suggesting that you have to keep every dollar liquid, but making sure there's significant liquidity really does create this massive safety net. But I think it also creates for us this opportunity space. And of course, we have to wait for the right moment, the right time to take advantage of the opportunity. And in my mind, that's what we're talking about when we talk about liquidity in conjunction with wealthy people buying back their time. Okay, Rod, what about this one? Oh, wait, did you have something?
Yeah. So in that vein, because the natural next question people often have is, well, where do you keep that? How can I afford to keep things liquid if it means just leaving it somewhere where it doesn't do anything for me? Right.
That is a
And that's
problem.
probably maybe the most understated thing when we talk about the investment optimizer, is that's kind of the whole point. It's a place
Yeah.
where you can keep that liquid money where it's still available, but now it's actually doing something for you in the meantime. And so we think about, oh, well, I'm increasing the return I get on my investments and things like that. And that's true. That's often what we focus on because that's where people are really intending their money is going to go somewhere and work for them somewhere. And so we focus on kind of the added return you can get using investment optimizer. And it's something we don't ever talk about it, but I think we don't talk about maybe enough.
Yeah.
Think about that money that's sitting there in the interim, not out in the investment, just sitting in that liquid state. Well, it's working for you while it's sitting there.
Yeah. And actually, like more than we often think about. So let me just say this. Let's just say I came and said to you, hey, Rod, we're going to put your money in a mutual fund and we expect it to get 8.25%. That's going to be, so that's your say. You've made your money. It's just it's a brokerage account. I go, would many people be like, my money's not working for me very well there? Like, do you think most people, I mean, I'm not saying, okay, I might have stuck my foot in my mouth because there's, some investors who are just like expecting 20%. But my point is like, I don't think anyone would say that money isn't definitively working for me.
Especially if you're choosing the mutual fund, you'd be happy if you averaged that 8.25%.
You probably feel pretty decent about it at the very least. Okay. Well, but what if you could do that except with like little to no risk and it was like almost a sure thing? Wouldn't that be better? Well, that's
Yeah.
ultimately what the investment optimizer is doing, because you're creating a tax-free return.
Yeah.
Even if I drive a 5.25% return and I consider the 35% taxes, now I'm driving a significantly better return. And again, we're talking about a 5 in my mind, and this is tricky because we have to be careful with this, but I believe that we undersell the cash value growth of life insurance because we've lived in the last 10, 15 years that have had extremely low interest rates. And so
Yeah.
we act as if that's what they're always going to do, right? But if I did this is kind of funny when you think about the market, and we're totally off on a tangent here. If you think about the market, and people will be like, well, the average return in the market since 1912 is XYZ, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what that would look like inside of just like whole life insurance, like what the dividend and interest combination would look like. But I bet it would be pretty similar, probably a little bit lower overall, but pretty similar, right? In terms of actual return, we talk about 5% because that's what it's getting at the lowest interest rate environment we've ever had. But the reality is the 80s and 90s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s were all much better than that.
Right.
Again, we can't make any promises that it's going to, but we feel very confident that we're going to get that 5%. And chances are, at least the way I think about it, just very truthfully in the back of my mind, both whether I'm talking about IUL or whole life, I kind of think over the next 30, 40, 50 years, I'm more likely to get probably something like 7-8% as a long-term return. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see if I'm right. Okay, that was quite the tangent, Rod, but good
Liquidity.
plug. Good plug for the IO. Okay, let's talk about automation. So this is maybe a form of leverage, right? You're leveraging automation, but when we're talking about ways that the wealthy buy back their time, automation is a big way to. And when we think about it, we probably think about automation in the context of the virtual world or technology world, but like you can automate anything. You know what I mean? You can automate the way that your decorations get put up so that that's not something you have to. And this is so great, Rod. I don't know about you, and if you haven't done this, I would highly encourage you. I know you're not as much of a
I'm
money
intrigued.
spender as me, but I love Christmas lights, but I hate putting Christmas lights up. I did it a few times when I was a kid. It was miserable. It was awful. And then my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, she made me go up there and hang hers, and it was awful. It was awful. Well, thank goodness there's a better way. They just put them up and they're up all year round. They can do all sorts of fun colors. Well, I automated not just that we're having lights up, but every single holiday or any other time of year, I've got all sorts of fun lights up. That is done without me lifting a finger. It cost, I don't know what it cost. Say it was $10,000 and all. It probably wasn't even that much. Probably like $4,000 or $5,000, Rod. So if you like lights and you're going to spend a day out there putting them up, then I'm saying you go to Jellyfish and you buy yourself some Jellyfish lights. What do you think? And automate that stuff.
We're in the process of putting that together.
Oh, yeah.
We're still going to hang them. We're still going to hang them, just to be clear. But it's going to be the year, the permanent.
Solution. Oh, okay. You're doing them, but you're doing it permanent.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's not what I would do. I'm going to be honest, but at least you're hanging them with permanence as a goal. So then you're not having to go and take them down and put them up. That's miserable. Oh, just Rod, I don't know if you know this, but it's not warm when we're doing that usually.
Not me, because I never think ahead far enough.
Very cold. Yeah, well, yeah. If you get out there in the summer and you do it, it might not be as bad. But my experience is that I'm usually doing it somewhere around Thanksgiving, and every time I'm like, well, it's been a long time. I'm complaining, like it's been like 15 years since I hung a light. So Thank goodness. Okay, Rod, leveraging automation, access. This is a big one. Sometimes we like paying for. I always tell people there's a few things that I'm absolutely willing to pay for. One of those is access, and another one is convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are things that are incredibly valuable to me. So when I think about buying back my time, and maybe it's not just my time, but it could be time slash opportunity, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word. But anyway, the point is right now, Rod, I called you just the other day, right? And I was like, hey, Rod, I'm sick of this banking situation that we're dealing with, and I want better banking. So what did I do? I was like, well, so Jarvis told me that we've outgrown our bank, right?
Okay.
Jarvis is like, okay, Christian, this is getting ridiculous. You guys need to go to a private client banking situation, which I've known for some time. Like, I've known that that would be a better place. Like, I, just the lack of abilities that our credit union has that we use is just
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous, and everybody's treated exactly the same, which is fine, except that there are moments when you need something more and you just can't get it. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
I am willing to pay for more. In fact, Rod, on the same point, I'm thinking about a concierge doctor. Yeah.
Oh,
Have you heard of concierge doctors?
I have not.
Okay, well, there's a show called Royal Pains that I
Okay.
ran across. This was years ago, but I haven't thought about it. But I hadn't thought about it much, but I ran across it, and this dude was like ended up being a doctor who was like in the Hamptons, and he got fired for something that I can't remember the situation, but he got let go at the hospital. He became a concierge doctor for a bunch of rich people who were excited to have a concierge doctor. Well, it didn't even occur to me until more recently that concierge doctoring was like a thing, and it maybe didn't look like it looks in Royal Pains. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But Rod, you can totally have a doctor come out and do your like annual physical, take care of it at your house. They can
Okay.
come to you instead.
I'd heard of that in dental. I had not heard about it in the medical side.
Yeah, you can do it all over the place. Okay. I haven't done that yet, but the other thing is I think it's typically done and any doctors who are listening to this that are just like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, feel free to email me and correct me. But at least from what I can tell, it seems like the ones who do the concierge doctor concept are like the ones who are kind of going off grid. Like,
Mm.
when I say off grid, they're the ones who are doing like a membership type funnel. So
Getting away from
maybe
the big health
everybody
system.
everybody pays $10,000 a year to get access to XYZ things or whatever, something
Got it.
like that. Those are the types of orders. So anyway, it's an interesting thing. But my point is, again, just going back to the way that wealthy people buy back their time, all of those that I just gave are examples of ways that wealthy people could buy back their time, so that those moments that they might spend doing that, they have to do things that they consider more important, more valuable, more impactful. What do you
And
think?
yeah, the extension of that we've seen is I often call our clients like do-it-yourselfers as it relates to their kind of finances.
Okay.
What I
Yes,
don't mean
but
is that they're
okay.
doing everything on their own. What I do mean is that they're taking charge of it. They're
Yeah.
not the worst thing that I see is people like just hand it off to someone else and say, "Hey, go grow my money and I'll see you when I'm ready to retire." So what I mean is
Yeah.
people who are not doing that, they're still taking charge of it, but they're out hiring the advisors, consultants, people that'll help them do it better, and they're still quarterbacking that, right? They're handing the ball
Okay.
off to someone else, but they're getting it back.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod. There's something this is bothering me. We have to
Okay.
get this DIY thing. We have to get rid of it. Because here's what happens. When you say DIY, I think of like, instead of hiring someone to build the shed that you need, you're like, nope, I got it. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to put the hammer, I'm going to put in the nails. And I don't think that's what you were talking about. I think
Yeah.
quarterbacking is the right word, or
Well,
something like that,
and that's the
instead of the
issue, I
DIY.
think. As I talk to people, they think that it has to be all one or all the other. Either I manage my money. When you say manage your money, it's like nobody else is involved. I make all the decisions. I make all the moves. I do everything myself.
Mm.
Or I hand it off to someone else and they do all that and I'm not involved at all. All I do is I look at the statements when they come through. And this is somewhere in between to different degrees, depending on which, who we're talking about. It's still using the professionals and their expertise and leveraging that part of it, but not completely relinquishing all of it. So we'll stick with quarterbacking.
I like quarterbacking. I mean, I feel like that just like has the right visual, because now you're distributing different tasks to different people on the field, all part of the same team organization working toward the same goal. So
I like it.
I can get behind that, Rod. I can get behind
stick with it.
Okay. Before we finish up, I want to talk about a couple other things. I want to talk about some of the traps that steal time from high income earners, right? So one of the biggest ones is, and I've seen, like, it's hard not to see, especially if you're like a business owner, but really if you're any high performer, it can become really difficult to ever let go of control and get out of that space, right?
Right.
And that in some ways can like trap us in a place that we don't necessarily love or want to be in. We're not accomplishing necessarily what we want to. And that, again, that's just one of those things that we have to be aware of. And like, how many times have we seen people have a hard time stepping away from their career, their business, like even though they want to, but maybe it's just that, they're worried it's not going to get done quite right if they don't do it the way they've done it, or whatever, right? Maybe they're worried about the next chapter not being as successful. Who knows what it is, but that's a hard one, and it's easy to get trapped in it. I've seen it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we see it. And here's the thing I can say. It's not something you fix overnight. You can't just wake up one morning and being like, I feel trapped. I'm sick of this. I'm done. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes setting up systems and processes and training and take steps.
Yeah.
So don't think it's going to happen overnight, but it's doable. You can get there.
Okay. So another one that can be a trap is overanalyzing instead of executing. And I think we talk about this a lot because we work with obviously high performers, and our experience is that like the most successful people that we work with actually tend to be very good at making decisions, taking in information, making quick decisions, and moving forward with those decisions, right? Now, that doesn't mean that every decision that's made ends up being the right decision, but most of them tend to be. And it also keeps people from getting into that analysis paralysis world where we spend so much time and energy thinking about all of the different angles, what could go wrong, creating the anxieties to go with it. And it keeps us from maybe ever doing it. But even if it doesn't, it could just keep us from, a lot of extra time and energy that could have been expended on something more valuable ends up getting expended there. That, Rod, is kind of the definition of a trap.
Yeah. And what you're not saying is, you're not saying they make quick decisions because they're just trusting that whatever the person is saying is going to happen, or any of those things. They still do their due diligence. They still have ways to analyze. It's not a lack of an analysis. It's just not getting caught in that and never moving past it. Right.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. It's a good way to think about it. Another trap, Rod, another trap that comes to mind. And I've seen it, I've lived it, but it's confusing activity with progress. Now, what does that mean? In my mind, the thing that comes to mind is like just this idea of work to work. I know now this is hard because it's not that there's not any value in like just learning to work. There is value in that. But I think as we become higher performers, work is a given, right? Like we're going to work towards something, but like if I'm going to put in that valuable time, energy, effort, I want it to be going towards something. And too often we can get stuck in trivial things that really don't create any impact. And again, when we take a step back, we look at it and are like, okay, those are not the things that I actually wanted to be spending my time on. And again, that's why it's a trap to watch out for, is just getting involved in something that's keeping us active. It's doing something, but it's not really progressing. It's not really creating the impact that I might want it to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to be clear in what you want out of it, and then be paying attention. Are you getting that out of it? Because if not, then being busy isn't accomplishing what you want to do.
Are there any other traps you want to hit on, Rod? Holding on to draining investments for too long, or responsibilities. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
This one is absolutely one that I live, right? Like, I have a hard time letting go of responsibilities. That's what we'll call it. Just plain and simple. Well, it depends on I'm hearing Rod saying, like, you don't have any problem laying responsibilities off to me. So, but
No,
I'm
hearing what you're saying though, because
but that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I mean more like, what I mean is, like, let's say that I'm helping somebody in some form. Let's say it's kids. Let's say it's family. Let's say it's anything, helping them in some way, shape, or form. Let's say it's money, right? That's an easy one to think about. I absolutely have a hard time just, like, letting go of that. And again, it's not even like, oh, Christians are so generous or something. It's just like guilt at times, right? Holding on to things like, well, and you don't want people to be in difficult situations. So when I think about that, like, that's where I have the most difficult time letting go of responsibilities. What I don't have a problem with is delegating. So that is very different in my mind. So when I get into the business world, I can delegate. But when I'm in, like, especially in, like, the personal, more sentimental, those types of things, that's when it becomes hard for me. I don't know. I'm certain you're the same way, at least to some extent.
Yeah, right. You get drawn in. The relationship matters.
Yeah.
So sometimes we do things that aren't healthy for the relationship because we think we know, like, we have to do what we're thinking.
I have a great example. Actually, you know what? I don't know who's going to listen to this. I'm not going to give that example. Maybe I'll change it up a little bit and see what happens.
Okay. You have a friend.
So, yep, I have a friend, and this friend is, in my mind, kind of taking advantage of their parents, who are willing to help, but not in, like, the position to be like. Anyway, my point is, they are literally living this, like, holding on to this responsibility that they really shouldn't be, and don't have really the capacity to hold long term, but they can't let go of it. We keep being like, hey, you've got to let this go. You've got to let this go. They just care too much. And so they're willing to hurt themselves at the expense of holding. So anyway, again, we're talking about traps here, right? That's a trap.
Yep.
Holding on to financial response, but the same thing could be true with bad investments. That's tricky, because you're like, you don't want to throw good money after bad, but you also, you don't want to give up on something too soon. So those are difficult ones. But again, that's why we're calling all these things traps. How about? Nope, I think that's it. I said guilt, hesitation around delegating. That is not something I have an issue with, Rod. I feel great about delegating. It's just the way that my brain works. I feel like can create more impact if more people are working toward a similar goal. So in that way, that's not really where I struggle. But in that other way, I definitely struggle there.
And this
I
one
feel
is
guilt from it.
Yeah, this one is one that I do have a trouble with, delegating, because in my mind I think, well, I can do that, and it's not quantifying. Okay, but if you do, what are you not going to accomplish?
So, Rod, you do have a hard time delegating. I'm going to say that, but not in the way that you think. I'm going to give some backup on that. Your delegation difficulty isn't in that you can't talk to somebody and delegate and be like, hey, this is what we need happening. Like, when I think of the actual act of delegating, you're quite good at that. What you're not good at is making the decision to not do it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's the challenge. Like, you can delegate fine. You're great at that. You're great at leading in that way, but it's hard for you to let it go. And you just described why, because what happens is you think, well, I can just do that. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can do that. And I have this list of like 50 things that are, I can do that. And I don't have the capacity to do all of those.
Yep.
So that's what I see from my side of the table. Is that fair?
Yep. That's
Okay.
exactly what I was
okay. So here's the key. We have to have a mindset shift, right? The mindset shift is that wealthy people measure success, not in just money, but also in control of their time. Because at the end of the day, we only have so much time that, and again, like, I'm 42 now, Rod, but every year, man, time goes by a little faster. I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? Well, guess what? That's literally what's happening. Time is going by faster according to the lifespan I've had. And it makes me think more and more like, I want to be spending time doing the things that I care. Now, that doesn't mean that the things I care about couldn't mean like, building a model train. If I love building a model train, that could be absolutely awesome. I'm not saying that every moment has to be like changing the earth, changing the world type stuff, right? I could still, and I can also say I could still make money. I could still be really good at making money and doing what I like. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
What I'm not suggesting, and I don't want to give people the idea that it's like, okay, I should stop being, a physician because that's just work and I'm trading time for money. If I love doing that work and I'm getting value out of it and it's impacting lives, then that's great. The opposite could be true for somebody who is burned out and needs some time away from that in order to feel more energized and alive. So everybody's different, right? We always say the situation's the boss, but those are kind of some of the things so anyway, long story short, it's all about shifting that mindset from, well, can I do everything? Right? I'm going to just take on everything, to being willing to say, okay, what are the things that I need to do in order to gain back the time in order to do the things that are ultimately most important to me? And I think both of us, if we're looking in the mirror, we can look at that and be like, there's some tweaks we could make here to spend more time and energy in the things that we care most about.
Agreed.
Okay, Rod, this is fun. This is, again, a different road. We've done 250, 60 episodes. I'm trying to keep this thing fresh, man. And what we do, we talk about some of the same stuff. Like, we cover different pieces and different angles of it. But when I came across this time concept working with Jarvis, I just thought, man, that hits the mark. That's absolutely an issue, or it absolutely connects. Is connects the right word? To everything that we talk about and do, right? We think about the investment world. We're always talking about control and intentionality. That exact same thing applies here. So that's why we went with it. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget that 5-star review. If it's not a 5-star review, just don't leave it. Don't leave it. Okay. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Money Insights Podcast. To learn more about the financial and business strategies discussed in this show, please visit moneyinsights.net. The views and opinions expressed on the Money Insights Podcast are not intended to be individual financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with the appropriate advisor before making financial decisions. And if you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This will help others find the show and learn wealth-building strategies for themselves. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.